A single word erupted from the lips of 8-year-old Elias Reed, breaking a lifelong silence that had baffled doctors across 3-star systems. Draken, before we dive into this story, drop a quick hi in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. I always love chatting with you, and it really helps support the channel. Also, leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. The boy stood frozen at the edge of the massive viewport, his small hand pressed against the reinforced glass as he stared into the swirling nebula beyond, where something impossible had just called to him from the void. Commander Maya Reed had long accepted that her son would never speak. Born during the exodus from Earth, Elias had been examined by the finest medical minds in the fleet. His vocal cords were perfect, his brain scans normal. Yet in 8 years, he had never uttered a sound. Not a cry, not a laugh, not a single word, until now. "What did you say?" she whispered, afraid that speaking too loudly might break whatever spell had been cast. The command center of the colony ship Artemis fell silent, all eyes turning toward the small boy and his mother. Elias didn't answer. His eyes remained fixed on the swirling cosmic dust of the Dragon's Breath Nebula that surrounded their ship. His finger traced something in the patterns that no one else could see. He spoke. Science Officer Chin whispered from her monitoring station. "Commander, your son just spoke." Maya nodded, her throat tight with emotion. "I heard him." The moment was interrupted by the ship's alert system. Red lights pulsed across the command center as the AI's voice filled the room. "Anomaly detected in the nebula. Unknown energy signature approaching. Contact in 15 minutes. Maya reluctantly pulled herself away from her son. Full stop. Defensive positions. She turned to her second-in-command. "Lucas, take Elias to our quarters." "No." The word was soft but clear, and it froze everyone in place. Elias turned from the viewport, his eyes meeting his mother's for perhaps the first time in years. "I need to stay. It's calling me." The command center erupted in controlled chaos as officers rushed to their stations. Maya stared at her son, torn between the miracle of his speech and the approaching unknown. "What's calling you, Elias?" "The dragon," he replied simply. The massive colony ship Artemis carried the last 50,000 humans from a dying solar system. Earth had been rendered uninhabitable after a cascading climate collapse, and the other colonies in the solar system couldn't sustain humanity's needs. The Exodus fleet had been traveling for 12 years, searching for a new home among the stars. Maya had been 30 when they left, pregnant with Elias and newly appointed as the ship's security chief. Now, at 42, she commanded the entire vessel after the previous captain succumbed to cosmic radiation sickness 2 years prior. "Commander, the energy readings are like nothing I've ever seen," Chen reported, her fingers flying across her console. "It's not matching any known patterns. Not Arcturian, not Centaurian, nothing in our database." "Is it a threat?" Maya asked, her eyes still on her son, who had returned to staring out the viewport. "Unknown. But it's powerful. Incredibly powerful." Maya made her decision. "Shields at maximum. Prepare evacuation protocols for the civilian sectors." She knelt beside Elias. "Sweetheart, I need you to go with Lucas now." Elias shook his head. "It won't hurt us. It's been waiting." "Waiting for what?" "For me." His voice was stronger now, as if each word made the next one easier to form. Maya's communicator chimed. "Commander, this is Dr. Patel. I just received Elias's brain scans from his implant monitor. You need to see this." The neural monitoring implants had been standard for all children born during the Exodus, a precaution against the unknown effects of deep space on developing brains. Maya had checked Elias's readings obsessively for years, hoping for some explanation for his silence. "Send it to my station," she ordered, moving to her console. The display showed a cascade of neural activity unlike anything she'd seen in her son's scans before. Patterns of connection and communication lighting up areas that had always been dormant. "It started exactly when the anomaly appeared," Dr. Patel explained through the comm. "His brain is changing, adapting. It's like something is communicating directly with his neural pathways." Contact in 5 minutes, the AI announced. Maya looked at her son, who stood calmly amid the frenzy of activity. In all his 8 years, she had never seen him so focused, so present. Whatever was happening, it had already changed him. All non-essential personnel, evacuate the command center, she ordered. When Lucas moved toward Elias, she stopped him with a raised hand. Not him. He stays with me. As the room cleared, Maya knelt in front of her son again. Elias, I need you to tell me everything you know about what's coming. His eyes, amber like hers, met hers with new clarity. It's ancient. It's been traveling between the stars for millions of years. It's the last of its kind, like us. His voice was becoming more fluid with each sentence. It's called a draken. Not a dragon like in the old stories, but that's the closest word in our language. How do you know this? It's been talking to me since I was born, he said simply. I just couldn't answer until now. Maya tried to process this revelation. Why couldn't you speak before? My brain needed to change first. To understand. Human brains aren't built to hear them. He touched his head. It's been helping me change, slowly. So I could understand. The view screen behind them shifted to a magnified view of the nebula. Something was moving through the cosmic dust, something massive and sinuous. It didn't look like any spacecraft they'd encountered. It looked alive. Contact in 1 minute, the AI announced. Chen gasped from her station. Commander, it's nearly 2 kilometers long, and it appears to be biological. The creature emerging from the nebula had a long, serpentine body that seemed to shift between solid matter and energy. Its scaled surface reflected the light of distant stars, creating patterns of iridescence across its massive form. What could only be described as wings, though they seemed to be made of pure energy rather than physical matter, extended from its body, spanning a distance greater than the Artemis itself. It's beautiful, Elias whispered. The creature slowed its approach, coming to rest at a distance of 1 kilometer from the ship. It made no aggressive movements, simply hovering in space, its body undulating gently, as if swimming through the void. No detectable weapons, Security Officer Diaz reported. No technology signatures at all. Whatever it is, it's either completely organic or operating on principles we can't detect. It doesn't need technology, Elias said. It exists between dimensions. What we're seeing is just the part of it that touches our reality. Maya stared at her son, wondering how the silent child she had raised for 8 years could suddenly speak with such complexity and understanding. Commander, Chen called out, her voice trembling slightly. It's emitting some kind of signal. Not radio, not any electromagnetic spectrum we use for communication. It's quantum entangled particles, instantly transmitted regardless of distance. Can we interpret it? Maya asked. No need, Elias said. It's talking to me. He stepped closer to the viewport, placing his palm against the transparent barrier. It says it's been searching for us, for humans, for a very long time. Maya moved beside her son, placing her hand on his shoulder. Ask it why. Elias was silent for a moment, his eyes unfocused as if listening to something no one else could hear. Then he spoke. Because we're alike. Its species was nearly wiped out millions of years ago. It's been searching the galaxy for others who can understand it. Who can help it? Help it how? Maya asked. It needs a symbiote, a companion species. Elias looked up at his mother. Its kind evolved to bond with another intelligent species. They shared their worlds, their knowledge. But their companions were destroyed in a cosmic catastrophe. The Draken have been alone ever since, slowly dying out across the universe. The creature moved closer to the ship, causing several officers to flinch. But it simply hovered near the viewport where Elias stood, its massive head, if it could be called a head, turning to regard the small human boy. It knows me, Elias said with wonder. It's known me since before I was born. It sensed something in human consciousness that was compatible. It's been trying to connect with humans for centuries, but our brains couldn't comprehend it. He paused. Until now? Until me. Maya felt a chill run through her. What does it want with you, Elias? It wants to show us something. His voice took on an urgency that Maya had never heard before. Mom, it knows where we can go. It knows a world where humans can live, where we can start over. For 12 years, the Artemis had traveled between star systems, finding only hostile environments or worlds already claimed by other intelligent species who had made it clear that humans were not welcome. Resources were dwindling. Hope was fading. The ship had enough fuel for perhaps 5 more years of travel before decisions would have to be made about population control and extended cryosleep. How far? Maya asked. How far is this world it knows about? Elias communicated silently with the creature for a moment. 27 light years. But it can help us get there faster. Much faster. That's impossible, Chen interjected. Even with our Alcubierre drive at maximum efficiency, that's a decade-long journey. Not for the Draken, Elias said. They don't travel through space the way we do. They fold it. Maya studied the creature outside their ship. Despite its alien nature, there was something almost familiar about it. An intelligence in its movements, a deliberateness in the way it positioned itself to be seen through the viewport. Why should we trust it? Maya asked her son. Because it's been protecting us, Elias replied. The cosmic radiation that killed Captain Lewis and the others. It was much worse than our sensors detected. The Draken has been absorbing much of it, shielding our ship for years. Maya turned to Chun. Is that possible? The science officer was already reviewing data on her console. Our external radiation readings have been consistently lower than predicted models for this region of space. We assumed our shielding was more effective than expected, but... She looked up, her expression a mixture of awe and fear. He could be right. The creature, the Draken, moved again, this time swimming in a slow circle around the Artemis. As it did, the sensors throughout the command center began registering changes in the surrounding space. Subspace distortions forming, Chen reported. It's creating some kind of, I don't even know how to describe it, a pocket in spacetime. It's showing us, Elias said excitedly. It's showing us how it can help us travel. The ship's AI chimed in with a warning. Unknown spatial phenomenon detected. Recommend immediate withdrawal to safe distance. Maya hesitated. Everything in her training told her to retreat from the unknown, to protect her ship and its precious human cargo. But her son, her silent, distant son who had suddenly found his voice, was telling her to trust this cosmic entity. Elias, she said softly, how can you be sure it means us no harm? Because it's alone, Mom, he replied, his eyes welling with tears. It's the last of its kind. It's been alone for longer than humans have existed. And it's dying. He wiped his eyes. It wants to help us before it's gone. So something of it will continue. So it won't have lived for nothing. The emotion in his voice. This child who had never before expressed joy or pain or fear struck Maya to her core. Whatever connection he had formed with the creature, it was real to him. And perhaps, just perhaps, it was humanity's last hope. What do we need to do? She asked. Elias smiled, a genuine smile that transformed his face. We need to let it come aboard. The statement sent a shock through the command center. That's impossible, Security Officer Diaz protested. That thing is enormous, and we have no idea what its physical properties are. It could breach the hull, expose us all to vacuum. It can change its form, Elias explained patiently. What we see out there is just a fraction of what it is. It can manifest a smaller physical presence inside our reality. Maya made the hardest decision of her career. Prepare Docking Bay 3 for a visitor. Evacuate all adjacent sectors. I want a security team present, but weapons on standby only. She looked at her son. Tell it we're ready. Elias nodded and turned back to the viewport, placing both hands against the transparent surface and closing his eyes. The Draken responded immediately, moving closer to the ship, its massive form beginning to shimmer and contract. Energy readings are fluctuating wildly, Chen reported. It's changing its quantum state. Outside the ship, the kilometer-long cosmic entity was condensing itself, the scales and energy wings pulling inward until it was merely the size of a small shuttle. This smaller form moved deliberately toward the designated docking bay. Docking protocols initiated, the AI announced. Unknown entity approaching external airlock. Maya turned to her officers. I'm going down there. Chun, you have command. Diaz, you're with me. She knelt before Elias. You too. I need you to translate. The boy nodded solemnly. As they left the command center, Maya couldn't help but marvel at how differently her son moved now, with purpose and awareness, so unlike the disconnected child she had known. The journey to the docking bay was tense. Crew members they passed in the corridors stared in shock at Elias, word of his miraculous speech having spread throughout the ship. Maya kept her hand on his shoulder, as much to reassure herself as to guide him. Are you afraid? She asked him as they rode the lift down to the docking level. No, Elias replied. But you are. You don't need to be. Maya smiled tightly. It's my job to be cautious. The Draken understand caution, he said. They've encountered many species who feared them at first, but they've never harmed a sentient being. He paused. They were explorers like us. Before the catastrophe, the lift doors opened to reveal a corridor lined with armed security personnel. At the far end, the airlock to Docking Bay 3 remained sealed, its status lights indicating that the external door was open to space. External entity has entered the docking bay, the AI reported. Atmospheric containment field is holding. Open internal airlock on my authority, Maya commanded. Security team on standby. The massive door began to slide open, revealing the empty docking bay beyond. Empty, except for a swirling mass of light and matter that hovered at its center. As they watched, the mass began to take shape, condensing and solidifying into a form that, while still alien, was recognizable. It stood approximately 2 meters tall, with a serpentine body that narrowed to a tail at one end and a distinctly dragon-like head at the other. Its scales shifted colors as they watched, cycling through iridescent blues and purples that seemed to contain their own internal light. Wings that appeared to be made of pure energy extended from its back, folding close to its body in the confined space. But most striking were its eyes, large, faceted orbs that glowed with an inner intelligence that was unmistakably conscious and aware. Elias stepped forward before anyone could stop him, walking directly toward the creature. Maya's heart leaped into her throat, but Diaz placed a restraining hand on her arm. Wait, he whispered. Look. The Draken lowered its head as Elias approached, bringing its face level with the small human boy. For a long moment, they simply regarded each other in silence. Then, slowly, Elias reached out and placed his hand against the creature's scaled face. A soft, melodic sound filled the docking bay, not quite speech, not quite music, but something in between. The Draken was communicating. It says hello, Elias translated, smiling. It says it's honored to meet the guardians of the child who hears its voice. He looked back at his mother. It wants to show us something. Something important. Maya stepped forward cautiously, coming to stand beside her son. We're listening, she said directly to the creature. The Draken's eyes shifted to her, and Maya felt a strange sensation, as if something vast and ancient was looking not just at her, but into her. There was no malice in that gaze, only a profound curiosity and something that felt surprisingly like compassion. It raised one limb, something between an arm and a wing, and the air before them shimmered. A three-dimensional projection appeared, showing a star system with a blue-green planet third from its sun. That's where it wants to take us, Elias explained. A world with oceans and land, with an atmosphere we can breathe. No intelligent native species, but abundant life. His voice took on the cadence of translation. It says the world is young and vital, that humans could thrive there for thousands of generations. The projection zoomed in, showing continents and oceans, mountain ranges and forests. It looked, impossibly, like Earth had once looked, before the devastation. Why would it help us? Maya asked, still wary despite the beauty of what she was being shown. Elias communicated with the Draken for a moment before responding. It says that all intelligent life in the galaxy is connected, that when one species is lost, something precious and unique is gone forever. He paused. And it says that humans have something special, a resilience, a capacity for adaptation that reminds it of its own companion species from long ago. The projection changed, showing the Artemis traveling alongside the Draken, the massive cosmic entity creating what appeared to be a tunnel or corridor through space itself. It can create a wormhole, Elias explained. A temporary passage that can take us directly to this new world. A journey of months, not decades. Is that safe? Diaz asked. Our ship wasn't designed for wormhole travel. Elias relayed the question and listened to the Draken's response. It will protect the ship, the same way it's been protecting us from radiation. It will wrap itself around us. He struggled to find the right words. It's hard to explain in our language, but it will keep us safe. Maya studied the creature before her. In all the years of humanity's space exploration, they had encountered a handful of other intelligent species, most humanoid, all operating on recognizable technological principles. Nothing like this being that seemed to exist partly in dimensions they couldn't perceive. We need to discuss this with the ship's council, she finally said. This decision affects everyone aboard. The Draken lowered its head in what appeared to be a gesture of understanding. It says it will wait, Elias translated. It says it has waited millennia for this moment. A few more hours is nothing. As they prepared to leave the docking bay, the Draken made one final communication, a soft melodic sound directed specifically at Elias. The boy turned to his mother with tears in his eyes. It told me its name, he whispered. Its true name. In its language. He made a sound that was not quite human, a harmonic resonance that seemed to vibrate the air around them. That's its name? Maya asked, surprised. Elias nodded. And it knows mine. It's always known it. He looked back at the creature with undisguised wonder. That's why I could never speak before. I was waiting to hear my name, as it's truly meant to be heard. The council meeting was as contentious as Maya had expected. 24 representatives from the ship's various departments and civilian sectors debated late into the night cycle. Dr. Patel presented his findings on Elias's neural patterns, confirming that the boy's brain had indeed been gradually changing over years, with accelerated development in language centers that had previously been dormant. It's as if his brain was being rewired to process a completely different form of communication, the doctor explained. Not just different words, but a different fundamental way of conveying meaning. And you're saying this creature did this to him? Asked Representative Garcia from the Civilian Council. It tampered with a human child's brain? I'm saying his brain shows evidence of adaptation, Patel clarified. Whether that was directed by the entity or was a natural response to sensing its communications, I can't say for certain. The Draken didn't hurt me, Elias insisted. He had been allowed to attend the meeting at Maya's insistence. It helped me. Human brains aren't built to understand its language. Mine had to change to hear it. And what happens to the rest of us? Engineering Chief Nakamura asked. Will our brains need to change too? No, Elias shook his head. I'm different. I was born in deep space. My brain was more flexible. He struggled with the complex concepts. The Draken says I'm a bridge. The first of a new kind of human that can understand them. This statement caused another uproar among the council members. Enough, Maya finally commanded, bringing the room to silence. We're facing facts. Our resources are dwindling. Our original mission parameters estimated we would find a habitable world within 10 years. We're now at 12 with nothing suitable discovered. The Draken is offering us a chance, perhaps our last chance, at survival. At what cost? Garcia pressed. What does it want in return? Companionship, Elias answered simply. Its species evolved alongside another intelligent species. They were symbiotes. When their companions were wiped out, the Draken began to decline. They need connection to thrive. So it wants to what? Connect with all of us. Nakamura looked uncomfortable with the concept. Not like with me, Elias clarified. Just to not be alone anymore. to help a species that reminds it of its former companions, to share knowledge and experience. Science Officer Chun, who had been analyzing the star system data provided by the Draken, spoke up. The planetary data matches what we've been searching for. Gravity at 1.1 Earth normal. Oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere. Liquid water. Moderate temperature range. If this information is accurate, it's perfect. If, Nakamura emphasized. Maya stood, commanding the attention of the room. I propose a compromise. We send a small expedition through the wormhole first, a shuttle with volunteers. If they confirm the planet is as promised, the Artemis follows. The council debated this proposal, eventually agreeing that it was the most prudent approach. Maya would lead the expedition, along with a team of scientists and security personnel. And, despite her maternal instincts screaming against it, Elias would join them. He was their only reliable means of communication with the Draken. As the meeting adjourned, Maya found herself standing at the same viewport where everything had changed just hours before. The Draken had returned to its full size and was now swimming gracefully through the nebula alongside their ship, occasionally creating small displays of light and energy that looked almost like aquatic play. "It's happy," Elias said, coming to stand beside her. "It's been so long since it had anyone to talk to." Maya placed her arm around her son's shoulders, still marveling at the transformation in him. "Are you happy, Elias?" He considered the question seriously. "I think so. I didn't know what I was missing before. It was like living in a world without color and suddenly seeing everything as it really is." He looked up at her. "Are you angry that I'm different now?" Maya pulled him close. "No, sweetheart. I'm just trying to understand. I've spent 8 years trying to reach you, to connect with you. And now this creature from another dimension has done what I couldn't." "You did connect with me," Elias said earnestly. "I always felt you. I just couldn't respond the way you needed. My mind was too full of the Draken's song." He placed his small hand over hers. "It was talking to me all the time, teaching me, preparing me. But it was so alien that it took all my concentration just to listen. I didn't have anything left for human words." Maya felt tears forming. "And now I can hear both," he said simply. "The Draken helped me build a bridge between the ways of understanding. I can translate now, back and forth." He smiled at her. "I can be both." As they watched the cosmic entity dance through the nebula, Maya considered the journey ahead. Tomorrow, they would board a shuttle and follow this ancient being through a fold in space to what might be humanity's new home. It was a leap of faith unlike any in human history. "Do you trust it?" she asked her son. "Completely." Elias nodded without hesitation. "It saved me, Mom. It saved all of us." He turned to look at her with eyes that seemed older than his years. "The radiation that's been hitting the ship, it wasn't just the normal cosmic kind. There was something else out here, something dangerous that our sensors couldn't detect. The Draken has been shielding us from it since we entered this region of space." "What kind of radiation?" "The kind that killed its companions," Elias said solemnly. "The kind that causes stars to die before their time. The kind that ended Earth." Maya felt a chill run through her. Earth's sun didn't just die naturally. Elias shook his head. "The Draken says there's something moving through the galaxy. Something ancient and either malevolent or simply indifferent to life. It triggers stellar collapses. That's what happened to Earth's sun and to the Draken's home system millions of years ago." This revelation was staggering. The rapid decline of Sol had been attributed to natural stellar processes, accelerated but not unprecedented. If what Elias was saying was true, the new world it's taking us to, is it safe from this thing? "For now," Elias said. "The Draken has been mapping safe regions of the galaxy for millions of years. This star system should be stable for at least 10,000 years." He looked out at the nebula, at the massive entity that had forever changed his life. Long enough for humanity to prepare, to learn, to grow strong enough to face what's coming. Maya followed his gaze, watching as the cosmic dragon created beautiful patterns of light and energy in the void. Tomorrow they would trust their lives to this ancient being. Tomorrow humanity would take its greatest leap of faith. But tonight, Maya would simply cherish the miracle that her son could finally speak, that after 8 years of silence, he had found his voice among the stars. The shuttle horizon detached from the Artemis with a gentle shudder. Through the viewport, Elias watched the massive colony ship grow smaller, 50,000 lives suspended in the void, waiting on the success of their mission. Beside him, his mother gripped the edge of her command chair, her knuckles white with tension. "All systems nominal," reported Pilot Officer Reyes. "We are clear of the Artemis and ready to proceed." The expedition team consisted of 12 people: Commander Maya Reed, Elias, Dr. Patel, Science Officer Chun, 2 security officers including Diaz, Pilot Officer Reyes, Engineer Kwan, and 4 specialists selected for their expertise in xenobiology, geology, atmospheric science, and agriculture. Each had volunteered, knowing the risks of being the first to test the Draken's proposed method of travel. Outside the shuttle, the cosmic entity awaited them. It had condensed its massive form again, though not as extremely as when it had entered the Artemis. Now it was roughly 3 times the size of their shuttle, its scales rippling with internal light, its energy wings extended in a display that took Elias's breath away. "It's ready," he announced, translating the melodic communication only he could hear. "We need to position ourselves directly in front of it." Reyes guided the shuttle as directed, bringing them to a halt facing the Draken. The creature began to move, swimming through space in a spiraling pattern around them. As it circled, tendrils of energy extended from its body, wrapping around the shuttle in a cocoon of shimmering light. "What's happening?" Maya asked, fighting to keep the alarm from her voice. "It's connecting to our ship," Elias explained, "creating a protective field. It says we need to be completely shielded for the journey." The sensors on the shuttle's bridge began displaying readings that made no sense to the human scientists. Quantum fluctuations, spatial distortions, energy patterns that defied classification. "These readings are impossible," Chun whispered, staring at her console. "According to this, we're existing in multiple spatial dimensions simultaneously." "That's how the Draken travels," Elias said. "It moves between dimensions, finding the shortcuts through space-time." He closed his eyes, listening to something no one else could hear. "It says we're ready. We need to shut down all propulsion systems and let it guide us." Maya gave the order, and the shuttle's engines went silent. For a moment, they floated in the void, wrapped in the Draken's protective embrace of light and energy. Then, before them, space itself seemed to fold inward, creating what looked like a tunnel of swirling cosmic dust and starlight. "My God," breathed one of the specialists. "It's actually creating a wormhole." The Draken moved forward, pulling their shuttle along within its energy field. As they approached the spatial anomaly, Elias reached out and took his mother's hand. "Don't be afraid," he said softly. "It's done this countless times." "But not with humans," Maya pointed out, squeezing his hand nonetheless. "We'll be fine," Elias insisted with a confidence that seemed beyond his years. "The Draken says to prepare for a moment of disorientation. It won't last long." As they entered the wormhole, reality seemed to stretch and compress around them. The stars vanished, replaced by patterns of light and energy that human eyes had never witnessed. Everyone on the bridge felt a moment of profound vertigo, as if their bodies were being pulled in multiple directions at once. Elias alone seemed unaffected, watching the spectacle with fascination rather than fear. Through the viewports, they could see the Draken swimming through this non-space, its body elongating and contracting as it navigated the dimensional currents. "Remarkable," Dr. Patel murmured, monitoring Elias's neural patterns through his implant. "His brain is processing this experience completely differently than ours. He's perceiving dimensions we can't even register." The journey through the wormhole lasted approximately 20 minutes, though everyone aboard agreed afterward that time had seemed to lose all meaning in that strange place. Then, as suddenly as they had entered, they emerged into normal space again. Before them hung a blue-green planet, strikingly similar to Earth, orbiting a yellow star. Continents of rich green and brown were visible beneath swirling white clouds, with vast oceans of deep blue covering much of the surface. "We're here," Elias announced unnecessarily, his voice filled with wonder. 27 light years from where we started. The Draken calls this world Novaterra, New Earth. The bridge erupted in excited conversation as the scientists began running scans of the planet below. The Draken released their shuttle from its energy field, moving alongside them as they established orbit. "Atmospheric composition is within human-compatible parameters," Shin reported, her voice steadier now. "Gravity at 1.1 Earth normal, as predicted. Initial radiation scans show no dangerous levels. This is exactly what we've been searching for." Maya felt a weight lifting from her shoulders. The burden of 12 years of leadership, of guiding humanity's last hope through the void, with dwindling resources and fading morale. "We need to conduct a surface survey," she said, regaining her composure. "Standard protocols. No assumptions until we've tested everything directly." The Draken communicated with Elias again, the melodic sounds filling the shuttle. "It says there's an ideal landing site on the northern continent," the boy translated. "A coastal region with freshwater sources and fertile soil. It's been monitoring this world for centuries, watching it develop." Maya nodded. "Reyes, take us down." Standard approach vectors. As they descended through the atmosphere, everyone stared in awe at the landscape unfolding beneath them. Vast forests of trees not unlike those of Earth spread across rolling hills. Great plains of what appeared to be grassland stretched to distant mountain ranges. And everywhere, evidence of life. Herds of large herbivores moving across the plains, flocks of flying creatures soaring through the skies, the shimmer of what might have been schools of aquatic life in the coastal waters. "It's beautiful," Maya whispered. "It's like Earth before we ruined it." The Draken followed them down, its massive form seeming to flow through the atmosphere rather than fly in any conventional sense. It guided them to a wide plain near the coast, where a large river emptied into the sea. As the shuttle touched down on solid ground for the first time in years, a collective sigh of relief went through the crew. Standard protocols required a careful series of tests before anyone could exit the shuttle. Soil samples were collected by robotic probes, atmospheric testing was conducted, and radiation levels were monitored. Everything came back positive. The air was breathable, the soil free of toxins, the radiation levels even lower than Earth's had been in its prime. After 3 hours of testing, Maya made the decision. "Diaz, Quan, you're with me and Elias. Full environmental suits until we're certain. The rest of you monitor from here." The Draken waited outside as the airlock cycled. When the 4 humans emerged in their protective suits, it lowered its head in what seemed like a gesture of greeting. In the light of the alien sun, its scales shifted through colors more vibrant than they had appeared in space. Emeralds and sapphires and colors human language had no names for. Elias approached it without hesitation, placing his gloved hand against its scaled face just as he had done on the Artemis. The creature made a sound that, even through the filters of their environmental suits, sounded joyful. "It's happy to see us here," Elias translated. "It says this world has been waiting for caretakers, for companions." Maya looked around at the pristine landscape. In the distance, what appeared to be deer-like creatures watched them curiously from the edge of a forest. Above, bird-like animals soared on thermal currents. The air, even filtered through her suit, smelled fresh and clean. "It's perfect," she said softly. "Too perfect. There has to be a catch." Elias communicated with the Draken for several minutes, their exchange more complex than previous conversations. "It says there's no catch," he finally reported. "But there is a responsibility. This world is young and balanced. Its ecosystems are still developing. If we come here, we have to protect that balance. We can't make the same mistakes we made on Earth." Maya nodded thoughtfully. "That seems reasonable. What else?" "It wants to stay with us," Elias continued. "Not just this one, but eventually others. There are more Draken scattered across the galaxy. Not many, maybe 100 altogether, but they could gather here over time. And what would that mean for us? Maya asked. A partnership, Elias said. They would help us settle here, teach us about this world and others, share knowledge that took them millions of years to gather. He paused, listening again. And in return, they would no longer be alone. They would have a companion species again. After 2 days of surface exploration and testing, the expedition team had found nothing to contradict their initial findings. The planet was remarkably Earth-like, with compatible biology that suggested humans could not only survive here, but thrive. The local plant life contained proteins and carbohydrates that humans could digest. The water was clean and pure. Even the soil bacteria seemed benevolent rather than pathogenic. It's as if it was made for us, Chin said during their final briefing before contacting the Artemis. The Draken says it wasn't made for us specifically, Elias clarified. But worlds like this aren't as rare as we thought. The galaxy is full of them. The hard part is finding them before other species do, and then reaching them with our limited technology. Maya had made her decision. Standing on the surface of Novatera, beneath an alien sky that nonetheless felt like home, she activated the quantum entanglement communicator, their only link to the Artemis across 27 light-years. Artemis, this is Commander Reed. We've completed our survey of the planet. All tests confirm it is suitable for human habitation. We are recommending immediate relocation of the colony. She paused, looking at her son standing beside the Draken. Our guide has proven trustworthy. Prepare the ship for wormhole transit. We're coming home to escort you through. The return journey was as disorienting as the first, but knowing what to expect made it easier to endure. Within hours, they were reunited with the Artemis, bringing news that sparked celebration throughout the massive colony ship. Not everyone was convinced, of course. A faction led by engineering chief Nakamura argued for more testing, for sending additional expeditions before committing the entire population to this course. But resources were too scarce for extended debate. The Artemis had fuel for perhaps one more major journey. This was their chance, perhaps their only chance. In the end, the council voted. With 22 votes in favor and only 2 against, the decision was made to follow the Draken to Novatera. Preparations took a week. The ship had been designed for eventual planetary settlement, with modular sections that could be repurposed as ground structures. The colonists had trained for this moment for 12 years, though many had begun to lose hope it would ever come. Throughout the preparations, the Draken remained alongside the Artemis, occasionally creating displays of light and energy that the colonists came to view as a form of communication or perhaps entertainment. More and more people reported seeing Elias speaking with the creature, the formerly silent boy, now the most important translator in human history. On the day of departure, Maya found her son at their usual viewport, watching the nebula that had changed everything. "Are you ready?" she asked him. Elias nodded. "The Draken says more of its kind will meet us there. Not right away, but eventually. They've been scattered for so long. It will take time for the others to journey to Novatera." Maya studied her son. In the 2 weeks since he had first spoken, he had changed in subtle ways. He stood straighter, made eye contact, engaged with the world around him in ways he never had before. And yet there was still something distant about him, as if part of his mind always remained connected to something beyond human understanding. "Will you always be able to hear them?" she asked. "To understand them?" "Yes," he said simply. "And eventually, others will too. Human children born on Novatera, some of them will develop the ability naturally. The Draken can sense which ones have the potential." This revelation gave Maya pause. Is that what they want? To change us? Elias shook his head. Not change us. Help us grow. Evolve. The way their original companions did. He touched his neural implant. The Draken says humans are already on the path to something greater. Our technology, our neural interfaces, we're already blending our minds with something beyond ourselves. They just want to help guide that process so we don't lose our humanity along the way. The ship-wide announcement system interrupted their conversation. "All personnel, secure for transit." Wormhole procedure initiating in 30 minutes. This time, the Draken would create a much larger spatial anomaly, one big enough for the entire Artemis to pass through. The cosmic entity had expanded to its full size once more, swimming in complex patterns around the colony's ship as it prepared to work its dimensional magic. "We should get to the command center," Maya said. As they made their way through the corridors, colonists stopped to stare at Elias. Word of his connection with the Draken had spread throughout the ship, and he had become something of a celebrity, or perhaps a curiosity. The boy who had never spoken was now humanity's ambassador to a cosmic intelligence. In the command center, final preparations were underway. The Artemis had been designed for interstellar travel, but not for the kind of dimensional transit they were about to attempt. Engineers had reinforced critical systems and created redundancies where possible, but much remained unknown. "Draken is in position," Chen reported as Maya took her command chair. "Energy readings are off the charts. It's doing whatever it does." Through the main view screen, they watched as the cosmic entities circled their ship, trailing tendrils of energy that wrapped around the Artemis just as they had around the shuttle. Then, before them, space began to fold. The wormhole that formed was vastly larger than the one they had traversed in the shuttle, a swirling tunnel of cosmic energies big enough to swallow the entire colony ship. "All sections report secure for transit," Lucas announced. Maya took a deep breath and gave the order that would change humanity's future forever. "Take us in." The Artemis moved forward, propelled not by its own engines, but by the guiding embrace of the Draken. As they approached the mouth of the wormhole, Maya reached out and took her son's hand. "Whatever happens," she said softly, "I'm proud of you." Elias smiled at her, a real smile, full of warmth and humanity. "We're going to be okay, Mom. All of us." The transition was smoother than it had been in the shuttle. Perhaps the Draken had adjusted its technique for the larger vessel, or perhaps the colony ship's greater mass provided more stability. Either way, the journey through folded space seemed to pass more quickly, the disorientation less severe. And then they were through, emerging into the star system that would become humanity's new home. On the view screen, Novaterra hung before them, blue and green and alive. A cheer went up throughout the ship. 12 years of wandering had finally ended. Humanity had found its new beginning. The colonization process began immediately. The Artemis deployed its landing modules, establishing a base camp near the site the expedition team had surveyed. Within days, temporary structures dotted the landscape. Within weeks, the first crops were planted in Novaterran soil. The Draken remained with them, joined eventually by 3 others of its kind who arrived from distant parts of the galaxy. They kept a respectful distance from the main settlement, establishing themselves in a nearby mountain range where they created structures that seemed to exist partly in dimensions humans couldn't perceive. Elias split his time between the human settlement and what came to be known as the Draken Enclave. He wasn't the only translator for long. 5 other children, all born during the Exodus like him, began to show signs of the same ability, their brains adapting to perceive and process the Draken's unique form of communication. 6 months after their arrival, Maya stood on a hillside overlooking the growing settlement. What had begun as a cluster of prefabricated structures had evolved into a proper town, with permanent buildings rising alongside carefully tended fields. The colonists had named it Genesis, a fitting title for humanity's fresh start. Beside her stood her son, now 9 years old, and changing in ways both subtle and profound. His connection to the Draken had accelerated his cognitive development, giving him access to knowledge and perspectives far beyond his years. Yet he remained fundamentally human, playing with other children, arguing with his mother about bedtimes, displaying all the normal behaviors of a child his age. "The first children conceived on Novaterra will be born next month," Maya said, watching a group of colonists working on a new irrigation system below. "Dr. Patel wants to monitor them closely to see if being born here affects their development." Elias nodded. "The Draken thinks it will. This world has energies that Earth didn't have, quantum fields that affect neural development. They think that children born here might develop abilities naturally that took me years to acquire. Does that worry you? Maya asked. That these children might be different? Different doesn't mean wrong. Elias replied with a wisdom beyond his years. Humans have always adapted to new environments. This is just another adaptation. He looked toward the distant mountains where the Draken enclave shimmered with unearthly energies. The Draken have been alone for so long. They're excited to watch us grow, to see what we'll become. Maya followed his gaze. Even after months of contact, the cosmic entities remained largely mysterious to most humans. They rarely ventured into the settlement, communicating primarily through Elias and the other translators. Their motivations seemed benevolent, but their perspective was so alien, so vast in its temporal scope, that truly understanding them might take generations. "And what will we become?" she asked softly. Elias was quiet for a long moment before answering. "Something new. Not just human, not Draken either. Something in between." He turned to her, his expression serious. "The thing that destroyed their companion species, that accelerated the death of Earth's sun, it's still out there, moving through the galaxy. The Draken call it the Void Eater." Maya had heard rumors of this entity, whispered among the colonists who had contact with the translators. "Is it coming here?" "Not for thousands of years," Elias assured her. "But eventually, yes. The Draken have been running from it for millions of years, trying to stay ahead of its path of destruction. But they're tired of running." His voice took on a harder edge than she had ever heard from him. "They want to fight back. And they think humans might be the key. Us? Against something that can destroy stars. Not as we are now," Elias admitted. "But what we might become, with time and guidance. The Draken have knowledge they've gathered across millions of years and thousands of worlds. They know sciences we can't even comprehend yet, combined with human creativity, human adaptability." He shrugged. "They believe it's possible." Maya considered this revelation. Humanity, reduced to 50,000 souls, now tasked with eventually confronting a cosmic horror that devoured stars. It seemed impossible. And yet, looking at the thriving settlement below, at what they had accomplished in just 6 months on this new world, she felt a stirring of hope. "How long do we have?" she asked. "The Draken estimate 8,000 years before the Void Eater reaches this region of space," Elias replied. "Time enough to prepare, if we use it wisely." 8,000 years. Nearly twice the span of recorded human history on Earth. Time enough for a new civilization to rise, to advance beyond anything they could currently imagine. "Then we'd better get started," Maya said with determination. "We have a lot to learn." Elias smiled. That same warm, human smile that never failed to touch her heart. "We already have begun. The Draken have started teaching advanced physics to our scientists. Concepts that will take decades just to fully understand, let alone apply." From the settlement below, the sound of children laughing drifted up to them. A new generation that would grow up under an alien sky, alongside cosmic entities that had witnessed the birth and death of stars. What would they become? What would their children become, and their children's children? "You know," Maya said thoughtfully, "for all our technology, all our achievements, humans were still just taking our first steps into the cosmos when Earth died. We thought we were advanced, but compared to species like the Draken, we were infants. That's why they chose us," Elias replied. "Because we're young, adaptable, full of potential." He reached out and took her hand. "They've seen thousands of species rise and fall across the galaxy. They say humans have something special, a resilience, a creativity that reminds them of their original companions." Maya squeezed his hand, feeling a surge of pride, not just in her son, but in all of humanity. Reduced to a fragment of their former population, forced to abandon their homeworld, they had nonetheless survived. More than survived, they had found a new beginning, a new path forward. "The Draken have a saying," Elias continued. "The youngest stars burn the brightest." They believe humanity might be the brightest new star in the galaxy. As the sun began to set over Genesis, painting the sky in shades of gold and purple, Maya thought about the journey that had brought them here. A silent boy who suddenly spoke when he heard his name whispered by a cosmic dragon. A leap of faith across 27 light years. A partnership between species separated by millions of years of evolution and fundamentally different ways of perceiving reality. The universe was stranger and more wonderful than humanity had ever imagined. And their story was just beginning. 1 year after their arrival on Novaterra, the settlement of Genesis celebrated its first founding day. What had begun as a cluster of emergency shelters had grown into a proper town of over 5,000 people, with the remaining colonists distributed among smaller settlements across the continent. The day was marked by feasting, music, and speeches from the colony leadership. As the celebration continued into the evening, many colonists noticed an unusual display of lights in the sky above the distant mountains where the Draken Enclave was located. "They're celebrating too," Elias explained to the gathered crowd. In their own way, the lights grew more elaborate, swirling patterns of energy that illuminated the night sky like the auroras of old Earth, but in colors no human had ever seen before. Then, as the display reached its crescendo, something unexpected happened. The air in the center of Genesis shimmered, and a Draken appeared, not in its full cosmic form, but in the condensed physical manifestation it used for direct interaction with humans. It was not one they had seen before, its scales patterned in shades of silver and midnight blue rather than the familiar iridescent colors of their original guide. The colonists fell silent, many backing away in surprise and uncertainty. Only Elias and the other young translators moved forward, greeting the entity with gestures of welcome. The Draken communicated in its melodic language, the sounds washing over the gathered humans. To most, it was merely beautiful but meaningless music. To the translators, it was a clear and profound message. "It brings a gift," Elias announced to the stunned crowd. "A gift to mark our first year on Novaterra." The Draken raised what might have been called a hand, though its anatomy defied simple human categorization. Above its extended limb, the air shimmered again, and an object appeared, a crystalline sphere about the size of a human head, swirling with the same energy patterns that had illuminated the sky. "It's called a Stellaris," Elias translated as the Draken continued its melodic speech. "A repository of knowledge. The combined wisdom of their species, gathered across millions of years." His voice filled with awe. They've never shared this with any other species before. Maya stepped forward as the colony's commander. "We are honored," she said, addressing the Draken directly. "Tell them we accept their gift and will treat it with the respect it deserves." After Elias translated her words, the Draken lowered the crystalline sphere into a specially prepared container that one of the other translators brought forward. With a final musical communication that sounded almost like a blessing, the cosmic entity departed, its form dissolving into motes of light that drifted upward to join the celestial display. The Stellaris was installed in a new building specifically constructed to house it, a combination of research facility and school that came to be known simply as the Academy. There, human scientists and scholars worked alongside the translators to access the vast repository of knowledge it contained. Progress was slow at first. The information was stored in ways that human minds struggled to comprehend, organized according to principles that defied conventional logic. But gradually, with the help of the translators, humans began to unlock its secrets. They learned of civilizations that had risen and fallen across the galaxy over billions of years, of technologies that manipulated gravity and light and the fundamental forces of reality, of life forms so different from anything on Earth that they challenged the very definition of life itself. And they learned more about the Void Eater, the cosmic horror that had destroyed the Draken's companion species and countless other civilizations across the eons. Not a living entity in any conventional sense, but a quantum phenomenon that fed on the energy of stars, accelerating their decay and collapse. It moved through the galaxy in a predictable pattern, but was virtually indestructible by any known means. The Draken had fled before it for millions of years, warning other species when possible, preserving knowledge of those that couldn't be saved. But they had never found a way to stop it, until they encountered humans. What made humans special wasn't immediately obvious. They weren't the most technologically advanced species the Draken had encountered, nor the most numerous, nor the most physically imposing. But they possessed a unique combination of traits that set them apart. Exceptional pattern recognition, remarkable adaptability, and most importantly, an ability to conceptualize solutions that defied conventional logic. Humans thought differently. They made intuitive leaps. They saw connections where others saw only chaos. And the Draken believed that this different way of thinking might be the key to finally confronting the Void Eater. 2 years after the arrival of the Stellaris, the first breakthrough came. A team of human scientists, working with concepts gleaned from the knowledge repository, developed a new theory about the nature of the Void Eater. Where the Draken had always perceived it as a singular entity moving through space, the humans proposed that it might actually be a multidimensional phenomenon, existing simultaneously in multiple planes of reality. This insight led to a new avenue of research. If the Void Eater couldn't be destroyed in normal space, perhaps it could be affected from another dimensional angle. The Draken, with their natural ability to perceive and navigate multiple dimensions, were fascinated by this approach that had never occurred to them. For the first time in millions of years, they had hope. As the colony grew and thrived, so too did the partnership between humans and Draken. More of the cosmic entities arrived over the years, drawn by the call of their kin and the promise of a new beginning alongside a companion species. The human translators became more numerous as well, with nearly every child born on Novaterra showing some degree of ability to perceive the Draken's communications. And in the center of it all was Elias Reed, the boy who had never spoken until he heard a dragon whisper his name. Now a young man of 16, he had become the primary bridge between the two species, his mind adapted to understand both human and Draken perspectives in a way no one else quite could. On a cliff overlooking the ocean, 7 years after their arrival on Novaterra, Elias stood with his mother watching a new ship descend from the sky. It wasn't human in design. Its hull shifted and flowed like the scales of a Draken, a physical manifestation of their dimensional technology. The first of the deep space explorers, Maya noted with pride. Human crew, Draken technology. The beginning of something new, Elias agreed. The ship would be the first of many, a fleet of explorers that would venture out into the galaxy, seeking allies, gathering knowledge, preparing for the distant day when humanity and Draken together would confront the Void Eater. As they watched the ship touch down on the landing field below, Elias reflected on the journey that had brought them here. A silent child, isolated in his own mind, bombarded by communications he couldn't understand. A desperate colony ship carrying the last remnants of humanity. A cosmic entity, ancient and alone, searching for connection. And all it had taken to bring them together was a name, whispered across the void. "You know," Maya said thoughtfully, "when you first spoke on the Artemis, I was terrified. I thought we were being manipulated by something we couldn't understand." "We were," Elias replied with a smile. "But so were they. That's what connection is, mutual influence. The Draken are different now too, because of us. More dynamic, more willing to try new approaches." He looked up at the sky, where the energy patterns of distant Draken could sometimes be seen dancing among the clouds. "We've changed each other." Maya nodded, watching the human and Draken crews emerging from the new ship below. "For the better, I think." "For the better," Elias agreed. And just in time. For while the Void Eater was still millennia away, the universe held other challenges, other dangers. But unlike before, humanity no longer faced them alone. They had found not just a new home, but new allies, ancient and wise and powerful. And together, they would forge a future among the stars that neither species could have achieved on their own. It had all begun with silence, and a name whispered across the void. And it would continue, For as long as humans looked up at the stars with wonder, and cosmic dragons sang their songs in the depths of space. And that was the end of the story. If you listened all the way to here, don't forget to leave feedback about what you thought of the story in the comments, whether positive or negative. Your feedback helps us improve. Also, leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. And I'll leave here on the screen another video that I'm sure you'll like. Big hug, and see you in the next story.